Ever cracked open a company's financial report and just felt completely lost? With all those tables and numbers, it can feel like trying to read a different language. But what if I told you that buried inside all that jargon is a really compelling story? Well, today we're going to be detectives. We're going to decode the third quarter report for a company called Duke Jung Chemicals and find that story.
So let's start with the big question, right? How do you actually take the pulse of a huge corporation? How do you get past all the noise in the headlines to see what's really going on with their money? It sounds like a job for some kind of financial wizard, but honestly, with just a few key tools, anyone can get right to the heart of it.
And you know what? All the clues are right here, hidden in plain sight. This document, the company's official financial statement, this is our map. It's where they have to lay their cards on the table and tell the truth. Our job is just to cut through the clutter, pinpoint the important clues, and piece the story together.
All right, so we're going to break this down into a simple 3-act story. First up, Act 1, we'll get to know our main character, and I'll show you the simple tools we're going to use to uncover its story. So let's meet our protagonist, Duke Jung Chemicals, or DGC for short. Now, these guys are a heavy hitter in Vietnam's industrial, chemical, and fertilizer world. Basically, you can think of them as providing the essential building blocks for things like agriculture and manufacturing in the region. And here's the cool part. To understand their story, we really only need 3 tools. These are the 3 main financial statements every public company has to put out: the balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement. And each one tells us a different but absolutely crucial part of the whole picture. Let's jump into Act 2 and start with our first tool, the balance sheet. This is where we get a foundational snapshot of the company. Okay, so think of the balance sheet like a photograph. It's a snapshot. It doesn't show you movement over time. It just freezes the company's financial position at one specific moment. In this case, right at the end of the third quarter. It perfectly balances what the company owns, which are its assets, against what it owes, its liabilities, plus the owner's own stake, which is called equity. Now, this is what it actually looks like in the report. And I know what you're thinking. That is a wall of numbers. But don't worry, we're not going to read every single line. We're hunting for the big picture. So let's just zero in on that total at the bottom. And this right here tells the first big part of our story. At the beginning of the year, DGC had about 15.8 trillion Vietnamese dong in assets. Fast forward 9 months, and that number has jumped to 19.4 trillion dong. The key takeaway? The company got bigger. Simple as that. It has more resources, more stuff to generate profits in the future. All right, now let's flip that photo over and look at the other side. This part of the report tells us where the money for all those assets came from. It's always a mix of 2 things: money they borrowed, which are the liabilities, and money from the owners and the profits they've saved up, which is the equity. And here's that story in a super simple chart. The company has 19.4 trillion in assets, but it only owes 3.4 trillion to other people. The huge majority, 16 trillion, is the owner's stake. Now that is what a really solid, healthy financial structure looks like. It tells us the company isn't just propped up by a mountain of debt, it's standing on its own 2 feet. Okay, so the snapshot looks good, but a picture doesn't tell you the whole story, right? It doesn't tell us how they're performing. For that, we need to grab our second tool and look at the quarter's performance. And this is the income statement. If the balance sheet was a photo, the income statement is the video. It tells the story of how the company did over a stretch of time, in this case, the first 9 months of the year. It's pretty much the company's report card. And here it is, straight from the source. Again, lots of lines, lots of jargon, but the real story here, the heart of it all, really just comes down to 2 numbers, the top line and the bottom line. First up, the top line, net revenue. Over these 9 months, DGC sold 8.5 trillion dong worth of its products. This is the total amount of money that came in the door from customers. But it costs money to make money. So after you pay for all the raw materials, the salaries, the taxes, everything, this is the bottom line. This is what they actually got to keep, a profit of 2.4 trillion dong. And that simple story of what we made versus what we kept is really the essence of being profitable. So, is 2.4 trillion a good number? Well, to know that, you need some context. Let's compare it to the same period last year, when they made 2.2 trillion. The answer is yes. It shows their profitability isn't just holding steady, it's actually creeping up a bit. That's a great sign of a well-run business. So the company is bigger, and it's making a profit. We're done, right? Well, not quite. There is one more piece of the puzzle. And it might just be the most important one. We need to check if that profit is actually real, tangible cash. So it's time for our final tool. It's time to follow the money.
And that brings us to the cash flow statement. See, profit can be a tricky accounting concept sometimes, but as the old saying goes, cash is king. This statement cuts through all of that and just tracks the cold, hard cash moving in and out of the company's bank accounts. It's the ultimate reality check.
Here's the statement itself. It's usually broken into 3 parts, but honestly, for checking the health of the main business, that first section at the top, cash from operations, that's the one we really care about.
And boom, look at that number. Over 9 months, DGC's main business operations churned out $2.8 trillion in positive cash flow. Now this is the big reveal. Remember that $2.4 trillion in profit we saw? Well, the company actually brought in even more than that in real, hard cash. That is a fantastic sign of a healthy, high-quality business.
All right, we've used our 3 tools, we looked at the snapshot, we read the report card, and we checked the bank account. So it's time for our final act, putting it all together for the verdict on DGC's 3rd quarter.
So what's the story we've pieced together? First, this company is growing. Its asset base got a lot bigger, which gives it more firepower for the future. Second, it's consistently profitable, and it's even improving a bit on last year's performance. And maybe most important of all, those profits aren't just an accounting trick. This business is a powerful machine for generating real cash. So we've decoded the last 9 months, and it's pretty clear this company is on solid ground. This brings us to the final question. What comes next? Given how strong they look now, what are the key things we should watch for in their final year-end report? Can they keep this cash-generating machine running and use it to fund even more growth? Well, that's the next chapter in DGC's story.